By Friday evening, the path to the Volkshochschule felt less like a trek into the unknown and more like a familiar rhythm. Elian no longer needed to check his map. His feet knew the way past the cobblestone square and the ivy-covered library. The initial anxiety of the second day had matured into a quiet, determined focus. He realized that while the city was vast, his world within it was growing, one classroom and one street corner at a time. Inside the classroom, the atmosphere had shifted from polite distance to warm camaraderie. Elian sat with Thalita and they compared notes from the previous night's homework. They laughed over the accusative exercises, which had felt like a puzzle with missing pieces. Thalita showed Elian a sketch she had made in the margins of her notebook, a humorous personification of a German verb chasing a direct object. Jürgen stood at the front, ready to introduce the next hurdle, the dative case. He explained that if accusative was the what, dative was often the to whom or for whom. A new student, Kenji, a chef from Japan, leaned forward, his brow furrowed as he tried to grasp why der Mann would suddenly become dem Mann. Jürgen used a set of wooden blocks on his desk to physically move the articles around, illustrating the shift in the sentence's balance. The class dived into a difficult exercise involving indirect objects. Elian and Neven worked together, trying to construct sentences about giving gifts to friends. Ich schenke dem Freund einen Apfel, Elian whispered, checking his grammar chart. Neven nodded, but pointed out that the word order changed if they used pronouns. They sat in a shared silence for a moment, both staring at the chalkboard, realizing that every answer uncovered 3 more questions. Jürgen noticed the growing fatigue in the room and decided on a practical shift. He announced that for the final hour of the week, they would walk to the nearby Bäckerei to practice real-world interactions. He moved between the rows, helping students pack their things. He paused at Thalita's desk to give her a thumbs up, noticing she had correctly identified the dative case in her last 5 practice sentences. The cool evening air was refreshing as the class arrived at the bakery. The scent of sourdough and cinnamon filled the air. Elian felt his heart race as it was his turn to approach the counter. The clerk, Marin, waited patiently behind the glass display of pastries. Elian took a deep breath, mentally rehearsing his sentence, focusing on the dative construction he needed to use to ask for something for himself. Ich möchte bitte ein Brötchen, Elian said, his voice steady. He then added, remembering Jürgen's lesson, Haben Sie etwas für den Hund? Marin smiled and reached for a small oat biscuit, handing it to him with a cheerful, Bitte schön. Naveen, standing right behind Elian, gave him a celebratory pat on the back. It was a small victory, but in the context of the first week, it felt like winning a marathon. As the class walked back toward the school to dismiss for the weekend, the conversation flowed more freely. Thalita and Kenji walked side by side, discussing the different types of bread in their home countries. They used a mixture of German and English, their hands gesturing wildly to describe the shapes and flavors. The struggle of the grammar was still there, but it was being eclipsed by the joy of shared experience. Back at the classroom door, Jürgen bid everyone a good weekend. Ruhen Sie sich aus, he said. Rest yourselves. He caught Elian's eye and shook his hand firmly. You are finding your voice, Elian, Jürgen said in English, a rare departure from his German-only rule. Elian felt a surge of gratitude. The week had been exhausting, but he was no longer just a visitor in this city. He was a participant. Late that night, Elian sat on the rug in the living room with Mika. He shared the oat biscuit he had brought back, and they looked through a picture book of German landmarks together. Elian pointed to a picture of a bakery and whispered the word, Bäckerei. Mika repeated it, the sound soft and perfect. Elian realized that the first week wasn't just about learning a language. It was about building a bridge to a future where they both belonged.